everyone, it's Heather again with Ozark Natural Foods, and today we're going to be making fried rice. So it's a very easy dish to do with a few easy things to remember. So we're going to go over your tips of how to make the perfect fried rice. And again, I'm doing the version that I like to do, but you can add in anything you want to your fried rice. So take this recipe and make it your very own with what you want to put in it. So let's talk about a few things before we get started. So I have got sort of my order over here, and I'll pull that over in a minute. We'll talk about that. But let's talk about our rice first of all, because that's the biggest thing when it comes to fried rice, making it taste like you get in a restaurant, is you want to start out with cold, day-old rice. So this rice I made yesterday, I stuck it in the refrigerator, and when you feel it, it's pretty dry and it's not sticky anymore. So that's the key, because if we were to just take rice straight from our pot or straight from our rice cooker and put it in, it's still going to be warm, it's still going to be sticky and sticking together, and therefore as we're trying to fry it and get it incorporated in, it's not going to have the same texture. It's just sort of going to glump together, and we don't want that. So main thing to remember with your fried rice: day old white or brown rice. Even make sure it's a day old, it's cold in the refrigerator. Even 2 days old is fine. 1 to 2 days, perfect for your fried rice. Okay, we're going to do some chopping first. Get our mise en place in order. It's one of my favorite words to say. It's very fun. It's mise en place. So that's French for everything in its place. So when you're doing Asian food and when we're doing our fried rice, there are a lot of things are going to cook quickly in our skillet. So we want to make sure that everything is in order, everything is chopped, everything's ready to go. So as we need to add these things in, we don't have to stop and chop something up or grab something out of the cabinet or the refrigerator. Everything's ready. We've got our fried rice made super quick. So let's get our chopping done first. I'm going to grab my knife from over here. So this is a chef's knife, and we are going to be using that today. So let's do a little bit of knife safety. So we want to make sure that our knife stays up here at the top of our board. So by doing that, we don't have to worry about it falling down on our feet or anyone else's feet. So knife should always stay on the cutting board, and it should always stay up here at the top. So we're going to leave it there when we're not using it. I'm going to scooch this over. Let's start out. We're going to start out with a white onion. So I'm going to take, we've got our 2 parts of our onion. This is the top part, it comes out of the ground. This is our root end down here. So we want to take this, the next thing too about our knife, how we want to hold it. So you've got your knife, you want to put your middle finger underneath of the neck here. So we've got that there. And then these 2 fingers go on top. So now we've got better control over the knife, and we don't have to worry about it going anywhere. We don't have to worry about cutting ourselves. So we're going to hold our knife just like this, okay? So we're going to take our other hand and do what's called a claw. So by doing a claw, we're taking, instead of our fingers being out, they're going to be tucked under, so we can still hold on to this, but the knife blade isn't going to be able to cut our fingers. All right, we're going to cut just a little bit of that top part off there. We'll throw that in my compost bin. And now what we want to do is we're going to cut straight through here and through that root. So now we've got 2 sections here. I'm going to pull that outer layer off. I'm going to go up there. Oh, can't get that onion skin off. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing to our other side here. Now what we want to do is we're going to take our onion. The cut side that we cut off at the top is facing this way. We're going to take our knife. We're going to cut down towards the root without actually cutting through it. And come back and do the same on this side. Okay. Now what we want to do, because we're going to be dicing our onion, is the natural curve of the onion back here where the root is, that's where we want to put our fingers. So our fingernail fits perfectly on that. We've got protection here, so we don't have to worry about cutting ourselves. And we're just going to cut straight down. Okay? So now we've got nice even dices. We're ready to go with this one. We're going to do the same with the other one. Let's go ahead. I've got a bowl here. We're going to put our onion and our celery in the same bowl because it's going to go in at the same time. All right. Let's repeat this side. Okay, and again, we're going to cut straight down. Okay. Perfect. Our onion is ready. All right, so next thing we want to do is our celery. So these are pretty small. What I'm going to do is cut this very end off down here. I'm also going to cut the very top off because it's a little dry. And now what we want to do, we're going to put those pieces of celery side by side. We're not going to really move where our knife is, but we're going to scoot our celery up towards it. And when we get down here closer to the end, go a little bit slower because we're down here by our fingers. Do that claw motion. Perfect. Celery's ready to go. It goes in with the onion. Alrighty. Next thing that we want to do, we're going to do some fresh garlic. So I'm going to peel some of this off, outer layer off, make it easier to get in there. And I'm going to use 3 cloves of garlic in mine. Alrighty, so to get these papers or the outside off of our garlic, what we want to do is we're going to take our knife, the widest part over the garlic, just press down till you hear it crack. So by doing that, we're breaking the garlic away from the paper. It's going to be easier for us to peel that off of there. You just go through here. Peel this off. Very good. All right, same thing there. Perfect. Okay, we're ready to go. So now what we want to do is carefully cut our garlic. If you have a garlic mincer at home, you can definitely use that here. And if you don't want to cut up any garlic, or you don't really like garlic, you can just leave it out. Okay, we're gonna gather our garlic back up. We're gonna take our knife, hold it down here. Our other hand's gonna go on top, and we're just gonna cut over our garlic without the knife ever completely coming off of the board. This hand is keeping our garlic, or keeping our knife from ever coming off the board. We're gonna get a nice mince. Carefully push that down. Make sure you don't get close to that blade there. Go over it again. Perfect. All right, press that down off there. Got another bowl here. Carefully put that in the bowl. Okay. Last thing for us to chop, we're gonna add some green onions at the end. So these are gorgeous local green onions. You can see they have these beautiful roots at the bottom. So what I wanna do, and what I love doing with green onions, is we're gonna take this bottom part off here. I'm gonna take this, stick this in a glass of water, and keep it out on the counter, and the tops will regrow themselves. So give it a few days, but you'll start noticing it growing little by little, and in about a week you'll have a nice big green onion. So I'm going to set this over here to the side, get those in a glass or a jar of water at the end. All right, so now what we want to do, because we have our green onions here, but there's several of them attached to the one, is we're going to cut here where you can see where they all meet. So then that way we've got separate ones. And I'm going to actually leave these out. Those are a little bit sturdier, and since these are going in at the very end, they wouldn't really have a chance to cook like we want them to. So now I'm going to take our green onions. I like to slice mine at a bias or at an angle. So to do that, we're just going to take, and instead of cutting straight across, we're going to sort of cut upwards. So then you get nice long pieces like this. However, if you want to cut them into smaller pieces, maybe you're not a super big fan of green onions, you can definitely just dice them across. That over here. Scoot those over. I like nice, big, long pieces of green onion in mine. And those are a little tough. Let's do our last two. Perfect. Okay. All of our chopping's done. Yay! Okay, so now what we want to do is I'm going to move this over because we are done cutting. I'm going to move our skillet back here. We're going to go ahead and turn this one on so we can start heating up. I've got a spatula. I've got some high heat oil. I'm going to get a spoon rest for my spatula here. We're going to let this get hot. Let's talk about our ingredients and do them over here in order. All right, so first up, our green onions, our white onions and our celery. They're the sturdiest of everything, so they're going to go in now. If you were doing fresh carrots or cabbage or something like that, go ahead and put those in when you put in your onions and your celery, because they're going to need to cook for a little bit. I forgot. Let's go ahead and get our oil in our pan. So you can use a regular skillet. This one's a regular one with high sides, so it's perfect for this. We're going to put a tablespoon or two of oil in there. We need to add some more here in a little bit. We will. Okay. So we've got our onions and our celery. Next up is our garlic. So I've got that behind here. So we know that's ready. After we add those in, we're going to add in our rice. I've got some seasonings in this bowl here. This is tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce, or regular soy sauce or coconut aminos. So it's that and a little bit of toasted sesame oil for flavor, and just a pinch of sugar or honey or maple syrup, some sort of sweetener, just to sort of counteract the saltiness and the fattiness of this dish. We've also got 2 eggs here. Let's go ahead and whisk those while we're waiting. So I've got a tiny spatula here. We're just going to give these a nice whisk. Perfect. There we go. Might want to dump that out. That'd be so sad. Must stick this back in the sink here so it doesn't get anything else dirty. Okay. So then we're going to do our eggs. After our eggs, at the very end, we're going to add in some green peas. I love green peas. I feel like all fried rice should have green peas. So we're going to add that in. If you don't like green peas, though, you don't have to put it in there. We're also going to add in a little bit of, this is rice vinegar. This is just going to sort of brighten everything up at the end. So we've got some veggies in here. We've got a lot of flavors going on, but we don't really have anything acidic. So I like to use rice vinegar. If you don't have that, apple cider vinegar works nice. And just a splash at the very end, and that's just going to brighten everything up. And finally, the very last thing, we've got our green onions here. So one thing that I want to tell y'all, sort of a trick while you are maybe getting your spatula, you've got your oil in your pan and it's heating up. What I'm going to do is just take a couple pieces of our celery here. We're going to add those in there. We don't want to put all of our veggies in there, because if we did that, what would happen is they would soak up all of our oil and they wouldn't really saute right. But if you throw a few of them in there, then you can have those. You can listen for when you hear them start sizzling, and that's when you know that your skillet and your oil is nice and hot and it's ready for the other things to go in. Can y'all hear that? We've got some sizzling going on. We can also see it sort of bubbling around our celery. So now we know that this oil is good. Okay, rest of it in. And we want to let this cook for just a couple of minutes by itself, sort of start to soften up our onions and our celery and really infuse our oil here. So what I'm doing right now is I've got my spatula and I'm just sort of going over where the onions are. So we diced them, but of course you've got your layers, and we want to make sure that we don't have a huge clump of onions in there. And just go through them, sort of break them apart if you can. And they'll break up more. Don't worry about breaking up every single one. Just if you see a big clump, do that. But as this cooks, they will also help break up at that point. Smells so good. sure that nothing's really, see if I can move this just a little bit closer there where y'all can see it. There we go. So you want to make sure nothing's like on top of each other, because if that's the case, then it's not going to cook properly. The bottom part will cook, but then whatever's on top really won't get the same attention and won't be as done. Alrighty. I'm going to pull our garlic down. It's the next thing going in. And I'm not adding any meat into mine today, but you definitely could. Whatever kind of meat you want to add in is really good in here. I just like sometimes just a real simple fried rice. Broccoli is another great thing to add in here. I forgot to get any, so I'm not having any broccoli in here today. But I do love broccoli, and I would add it in when you add in your celery and your onions, just to give it a little bit of a chance to soften up. If you're using frozen broccoli, just take it out of the freezer and run it under some cool water until it sort of defrosts itself. All right, I think our celery and our onions are good. So now we're going to add in our garlic. Perfect. And we just want that garlic to cook for just about 30 seconds or so, just till we start smelling the garlic. That's when we know that it's ready. All right, you can smell our garlic. Okie dokie. Next thing you want to do, we're going to add in our rice. So you want about 3 cups. And then we want to mix it all together. Because we don't want our garlic to burn, and we really want this to all infuse together. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in just a little bit more of my oil. And now I'm going to take our rice, press it out to where you don't have a huge clump in the middle, and all of our rice can have a chance to cook and get a little bit crispy for us. So this is the hardest part of fried rice for me, is leaving it alone. So we want to let it cook without moving it for a few seconds. My boyfriend is actually the one that taught me how to properly make fried rice several years ago. And I, for real, had to walk out of the kitchen, because even though I have been teaching cooking classes and, working with food for so long, instinctively I wanted to start moving the rice around so it didn't burn. And he assured me, Just leave it there, let it get sort of a little crust on it, and then we'll go ahead and flip it. So if you have to sort of walk away for a minute, I won't blame you there because I had to do the same thing. Okay? Oh yes. Perfect. Now we want to flip this around a little bit. Again, we're going to do the same thing. We're pressing all of it out and around. Press it down. I'll leave it alone for a second. You want to let it cook for about 30 seconds or so in between stirrings. We're going to use our spatula to press it down. We'll let it go for just a little bit longer. Then the next thing we're going to add in is going to be our seasonings to it. But you can hear sort of the crackling, the crispiness happening here on our rice. That's what we want. All right, let's let it go one more time. We'll flatten it all out, and then we'll add our seasonings into it. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Let's add our seasoning in. Again, this is our tamari and our toasted sesame oil. And at this point, you really want to stir it around quite a bit. Whoop. Throw a little bit at yourself, that's okay. Fried rice is messy to make. But by doing this, we ensure that all of our rice is coated in our tamari and our toasted sesame oil. Perfect. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to make a well in the middle of our pan here. So we're going to scooch everything to the side. You see we've got a little opening there. Now what we want to do is we're going to take our egg, and that's going to go right in the center. We also want to let that cook for just a few seconds without messing with it. And then we're going to take our spatula and we're just going to sort of move it around a little bit so that this ensures that it's scrambling, it's not sticking. All right. So now what we want to do, you see here we've got that here in the middle. They're almost cooked because we're going to start incorporating that into our rice. So at this point we just want to stir that around. Get any little bit of that might have stuck there to the bottom. Perfect. I like bigger chunks of egg in mine. Okay, let's get our peas in here. And our peas really don't have to cook. We just want to warm them up. So make sure it's all incorporated together. Show you here, no egg stuck in the middle. Yay! Ready? I'm going to turn our heat off. We're going to take some of our rice vinegar right in there. Stir that around, get it all incorporated in. We're going to take some of our green onions, add those in. Toss some of that rice around on top of them, and just the heat from the rice cooking in this hot pan will sort of help cook our green onions just slightly. We don't want them to be cooked too much, but we do want them to sort of soften up a little bit. Perfect. Okay. Time to taste test. Be a nice chunk of egg. My favorite part. Okay.